As we are in the 3 weeks and we are approaching Rosh Chodesh Av, I felt it was appropriate that this week's video should focus on an idea that is a central theme to the times, but something that is really not well understood and not very much appreciated. And that is the concept of Korbonos. What is Korbonos? Why are they such an essential theme to our service to Hashem? And why were they instituted in the beginning of davening? And most importantly, what does it mean to me? This is obviously a very lofty and complex concept. Today we will only focus on part of the elements, the ones that we can most easily understand. So first we need to go back to the beginning of time. When Hashem first created the world, He initially created the spiritual plane. It is from there that Hashem created the angels. It is from there that our neshamas will come from, and they will return there for their eternal schar in Olam Haba. Afterwards, parallel to that world and corresponding to that world, Hashem created the physical world. And they connected our bodies to our neshamas and connected the physical world, the animals and the minerals, all to their spiritual components that are residing within the spiritual plane. And in order to keep those elements focused and connected and properly aligned, Hashem tasked mankind as the highest form of creation to be able to do that, to maintain that balance and awareness. And that is one of the primary functions of a korban. A korban, as translated, means to bring close. And when we talk about that in relationship to this world and the spiritual world, we're talking about elevating the things that are physical back to their spiritual components. But as man lives in the physical world, we often get drawn into our physical perceptions and we lose sight of what we really are. And therefore, we even translate the words korban to mean sacrifice, which is the exact opposite of what it really is. Because sacrifice connotes something that is being destroyed, that has been given up in order for some other goal. Whereas a korban means that the object is not being sacrificed, it's not being destroyed, it's being elevated back to its primary and original source, and that is of its spiritual existence. And we see this already with Cain and Hevel, the very first story of Korbonos, where Hevel was able to take the choicest elements that he had and bring it to Hashem, because he recognized that that is really who and what we came from. But Cain was drawn into the physicality and did not give from his best produce, and hence his korban was not accepted. So now we see that this is man's task, to be able to connect the two worlds and maintain their balance. And that has been our challenge. And that is what has happened over the years and over the centuries. As man continued to struggle with this balance, it became necessary to take their korbanos and put them in a central place. And first it was in the Mishkan. And then it was even more centralized, and it was in the Beis Hamikdash. And that became our place of connecting to Hashem, and the place where we were able to keep the worlds in balance. But not only that, it became our identity, particularly as Hashem's people. We were able to maintain our knowledge and of who we are, by able to bring these korbanos and to be able to serve Hashem through Torah mitzvahs. And when we lost that perception and we became drawn into the physical world, we even lost our ability to bring the korbanos because we were not succeeding anymore, and we had fallen into a trap similar to that of Cain. So now we understand what the purpose and significance of korbanos are. And therefore it's understandable why he was put in the beginning of davening. Because before we can daven to Hashem and start that avodah, we need to remember who we are. And what our purpose is to be able to connect the physical and elevate it back to our spiritual sources. And then we can start the journey and the process of tefillah. I believe this concept and the tragedy that has occurred can be best understood with the following mashal. Imagine a young man who is now traveling away from home for the first time. So his parents give him a phone, a very expensive phone, one that has many capabilities, so that he can stay in contact with the parents no matter where he is, and to be able to be successful in all of his tasks. And this young man becomes very enthralled with the phone, and he finds a lot of entertainment, he finds a lot of success in business, all sorts of tools that are able to be used with his phone. And he begins to lose sight of the fact that the phone's purpose is to be able to communicate and connect back to his parents. Now, could you fathom that if this young man would become so focused on the phone and want to use all of its needs and all of its technology for his purposes, that he would begin to resent using the phone as a form of communication to his parents? Could you imagine where he wouldn't want to use the battery life of his phone for talking to parents, but rather he wants to use it to be able to his entertainment or his business or what like? It's almost unfathomable that that could occur. But that is what has happened to us over the generations. We have taken the physical world and all of its components, and instead of using them appropriately and connecting them back to their spiritual essence and using them as a form of relationship with our Creator, we have been drawn into their physical usages, and we have lost sight of its proper meaning. And the tools that were given to us, the Torah and the mitzvahs, that are supposed to be our lifeline, our connection back to our Creator, and we have learned not to appreciate them, and we perhaps resent them. Perhaps we don't want to spend time davening. We don't want to spend time doing Torah mitzvahs because we want to focus on our physical needs. Perhaps it's our businesses, or perhaps it's our entertainment. And hence we have the tragedy that we are mourning today. It was that loss of focus and identity that brought the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. And therefore it is all the more relevant today when we are very focused on our physical needs and we don't even remember who our identity really is. And therefore I believe we can identify with what we are supposed to be focusing on these days, as we want to be able to remember who we are, and we want to feel the connection to our Creator, and we want to have the identity of our spiritual essences. And therefore we mourn the Beis Hamikdash, we mourn the loss of the Korbonos, we daven to Hashem that He should bring it back, that we should be able to once again to connect to Him, to remember that this world is really all about connecting and elevating ourselves and everything within it back to our spiritual sources. And no matter how long that takes, let us all try to remember who we are. We are not physical beings that have a godly soul. We are godly souls that live within a physical being.